Hello, and thank you for tuning in. On behalf of all of us at Books and Books, I welcome you to a virtual event with Holly Campbell to discuss You Recharged. Holly Campbell is an established author, writer, podcaster, speaker, and media personality who attracts a broad audience of mothers, writers, and people who aspire to live healthier, more engaged lives. She connects with her audience through her weekly podcast, bi-monthly newsletter, blog posts for Psychology Today, articles published in global print and online publications, personal blog posts, and regular television appearances, speeches, and workshops. So a little bit about tonight's event. Throughout tonight's broadcast, you're invited to ask questions by using the Ask a Question feature at the bottom of the screen, and you can order copies of You Recharged by pressing the green button below. And that also takes you to the Books and Books shop site, so you can order any book you'd like. We appreciate each and every order, of course, and the generous donations from viewers everywhere. And now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Holly to the virtual stage.
I'm here.
Hi, Holly.
Hi.
There you are.
There I am. Thank you. Hello. Welcome. Thanks for joining me tonight. I see we're from all over the world, and I'm out west. I'm in Oregon. So it's still the afternoon out here, but I love this for all the changes that we've been through the last year and a half. The fact that we can still come together and learn from each other and share is awesome. So thank you for taking time to join me tonight. And thank you to Books and Books. I'd love it if you hit the green button and buy You Recharged, but I'd love it if you bought any book. So find something that inspires you and enlightens you and entertains you and makes you laugh and connects you, because I think books are the one way we can save the world and support each other. So read, read, read. And thank you, Books and Books. I'm excited to be here. 3 years ago, I couldn't have said the same. I wasn't excited about anything. I was waking up in the morning feeling dull and tired and bored. And I would walk out from my bed and get a cup of coffee and sit on the edge of the couch. And I would count the hours until I could go back to bed. And I thought, I don't want to feel this way. Why am I so tired? Sure, I'm working full time. I have a daughter, right? I'm living a full life. I'm a busy life. And it's one I was creating. And yet I'd wake up in the morning feeling bored from all this, feeling dull and drab, and like I didn't want to go do anything at all. What was going on? I was wondering, is this all there is? I wasn't depressed. I did check that out. But I was still interested in the world, just not mine. And when I started to get real about that, I started to feel really ashamed and embarrassed, because on paper I had a great life. I'm married to a nice guy. My daughter is healthy. I'm self-employed as a writer. I have created my own dream job, and it wasn't all that dreamy. I was not very motivated. I was not feeling creative. Things were feeling hard and boring. And so I started to explore that a little bit, because everything's material, right? I didn't want to sit in that place of dullness, of boredom. I feel like we have only a short time on this planet, and I wanted to use the time I had to feel excited again, to re-engage with my life. So I decided to figure out what was going on. And what I discovered, what I was lacking, was vitality. And I'm sure many of you know what I'm talking about, because we go through these ups and downs of life, right? We just went through another one. And I use the same skills I'm going to talk about tonight, the same practices during the pandemic, to stay engaged and stay curious, as I did when I was feeling so stuck and bored on the couch every morning. I do the things I write about. I've tested them and I draw from them, because what I was looking for really wasn't a one thing fits all. It wasn't a solution to my life. It was a way to experience the life I'm living. And it works for me. We all have moments where we're stuck. We come off these great highs of our life and we settle in and think, oh, that was an awesome experience. Now I'm going to relax for a little bit. And pretty soon, that point of relaxation, those mornings on the couch, go from being nice and comfortable to boring and wondering, is this all there is? No, it's not all there is. We can re-engage in our life. We can bring enthusiasm back to our life and energy, and we can do it in the smallest of ways to make a big difference. And that's really what You Recharge is about. It's about the experience of doing that very thing in my life and doing it still to really make the most of the time we have here and have fun doing it. I was tired of feeling tired all the time. The first thing I started was, well, I came up with a plan, right? I'm sitting on the couch with my morning coffee thinking, well, this isn't working. I need to do something different. But how do you do something different when you're so stuck where you are? I knew exercise would help, but I didn't want to exercise. I didn't want to do the things I needed to do. So the big thing is we have to discover a way to break that inertia, right? Because once we're rolling, we gain momentum. We accumulate small wins, and that sense of accomplishment drives us. But we have to get rolling again. So I started to investigate this situation. Was I having a midlife crisis? I didn't feel like I was living in crisis. I didn't feel all that stressed out. I just didn't feel engaged. I'm going to read from my book now what midlife crisis means. The term midlife crisis was coined in the mid-1900s by Elliot Jacques in a paper he drafted for the meeting of British Psychoanalytical Society. In that paper, he talked about these great artists that kind of tapped out between their 30s and 40s. They became depressed or unable to create during that time. They hit a plateau that they never recovered from. Now, we know from other research that our happiness diminishes until about the age of 48 as we go on. When we hit 47.2 specifically, 47.2 years old, that is apparently, according to research, our most unhappiest time. And what research has found is because we have all this life experience, many of us are through school, have started our families. Some of the times the kids are gone. We are in an established career. And we look back and realize, oh, I'm not going to accomplish all those dreams I once had. And that begins to make us feel sad and depressed a little bit. That's what they call a midlife crisis. I don't think I was there. I was ready for a change. What I wanted was vitality. What I needed was that energy for life. Now, vitality, some traditions call it chi, right? It's that inner energy, and it creates the cyclical behavior or action or motion. It takes energy to get energy. Think of it like our car, okay? If the battery is dead, we need to jump the energy in that battery, jump that car. And once it ignites again, once we have ignition, right, what do? We drive around the neighborhood. Yeah, I've done this a lot lately with my beat up old minivan. We drive around the neighborhood until that battery recharges. Vitality in us works a lot like that. We're never without it. It is within us. It is who we are. It's the essence, the core energy. But sometimes it drops. Life gets in the way. It pushes us and beats us down, wears us out, until we forget we have this spark right here all along. So we need to rev our vitality. Right. That's the way you recharge. That's the way we edge back to re-engage with our life. So where to get that spark of energy when it feels like you have none? The first thing I did was look at where the energy drains were. What was draining my energy? Number one, I'm chronically ill. I have rheumatoid arthritis. And at different times, that comes up and smacks me around and causes more pain or stress or anxiety, whatever it is. That can take a hit on my vitality. But I also discovered I wasn't creating. I'm in this job as a writer, but I was right in my comfort zone. I was doing the work I knew how to do, and it was comfortable. but it wasn't very interesting. I wasn't creating. I was falling back on what I already knew. Right? So when I started in those early mornings on the couch, feeling so drab and bored and bad, low energy, I decided to take a look at the things that were draining my energy. So think about this for a moment. What is draining the energy from your life? What is draining the energy from your life? A good way to start thinking about this is to look at the times you feel most energized and look at the times you feel lowest. I felt low energy every morning, right before work, right? Clearly, the work I was doing then was draining my energy. I felt really tired at the end of the day when I walked straight out from work and started cooking and doing the household chores for the family without any break, without any time, right? I felt really low energy when I had gained quite a bit of weight and I was overweight, and I felt really low energy whenever I had to do anything physical. So I went to those areas of lack, the things that were draining me physically and emotionally and spiritually. And that's where I started. And I looked at each of those things and I thought, is my behavior aligning with how I'm spending my time? So is my behavior aligning with the things I value? Are my values aligning with the behavior? Because the first thing we need to do when we discover the things that are draining our energy is to step back and see if we're doing the things that matter to us. What I discovered is I wasn't. I had always said health was a value of mine, but I wasn't working out. I was eating more junk food. I wasn't getting enough quality sleep. I wasn't having enough fun. So my behavior was in opposition to the thing I valued, my health. That causes the energy drain to persist. My work, I'd always said I wanted to be a writer because I wanted to write and create. And yet I was spending more of my time invoicing and marketing and writing corporate materials, which was great. I'm pretty good at it. I enjoyed parts of it, but I was no longer creating because the materials I was doing didn't move me beyond my comfort zone. They were familiar. My marriage was familiar too. He's a great guy. We're happily married, but we weren't doing anything in our marriage to spark that energy after 20 years. No wonder I felt tired. My energy was draining out. So take a look at the areas in your life. What do you value? And how are you acting in your day? Do your values match up with most of your behaviors? If not, there's a disconnect. And that means your energy is draining. And the way to plug those energy drains then is to make sure you're either adjusting your values, because we outgrow our values all the time. The things that mattered to me 15 years ago are different now that I'm older, right? I value different things now. So make sure that the values you are living by support you and are relevant to the life you're leading now. And then check and see if some of the actions during your day match up to the things you value. Now, it might not be your job. Not everything I do in my job is in alignment with everything I value, but I found ways to add in enough of those things so that the energy drains could be plugged. And I talk about a lot more of these strategies in this book, and there's a whole matching exercises about this. But in the 20 minutes we have tonight together, I wanted to make sure you understood how I arrived at this, because what I realized in my own life is the things I was doing no longer fit with the things that I valued. I felt bad about that. Then I had to figure out how to add actions back in that supported those values, right? And I had to do it without putting out a whole lot of effort. Because remember, I'm stuck on the edge of the couch at this point. I'm tired and bored. I'm thinking, all I need is to go back to bed. And now you're recognizing I need to get off the couch and do something. So the very next step after that is to take the simplest, easiest baby step toward an action, towards something you value. Take the simplest, easy baby step towards something you value. Okay. So one clear example of what I did in my life is I realized I was overweight and I was feeling low energy. I was not eating the right kinds of foods to support my physical health and energy. So that day, this is about a weekend, all this planning. That day, I decided I was going to eat 7 fruits and vegetables a day. Now, I could eat anything else I want because people, I am not kissing pizza goodbye. I will tell you that right now. None of these diet things for me. I'm going to eat my pizza. I'm going to have a glass of wine once in a while. But I wasn't getting enough of the other nourishment my physical body needed to help create this vitality, right? Because vitality exists on an emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical level. So we got to go back to the basics. So to connect with my physical vitality, I began that day by eating more fruits and vegetables. I started with 1 that day, and I built up to 7 fruits and vegetables a day, every day. I started drinking green smoothies for breakfast, eating salads for lunch, and I started feeling lighter and healthier. And then something else happened. I started feeling in charge of my life again. I reconnected to a little bit of that energy I had inside. And when we do that, we're just like that car engine. After we rev it up with a little action going around the neighborhood, we can turn it off and it holds the charge, right? When we're driving in our car, it's giving energy out to the world, right? It's transferring its energy by going through the neighborhood, but it's holding its energy too. We gain vitality by participating and engaging in our lives. Even in the smallest ways, we can make a big difference. We can connect and re-engage to the things that matter. But we've got to start by plugging those energy drains. We've got to start by adding the simplest, easiest baby step to get us moving in the right direction toward the things we value. And when we do that, we need to sit and notice, right? Because what we know from researchers like Teresa Mabel and others is that small wins make all the difference. Here's what happens when we notice even our smallest accomplishment. We get a burst of dopamine. That's the reward center in our brain that says, hey, you did it, good job. And we celebrate that and we feel connected to that and we feel good. We get a hit from that. But what we also know now about dopamine is that also manages our motivation. So when we feel like we've made a little progress, we are motivated to make more. So the energy builds on itself and we start expanding our energy. We start engaging in our life and that attracts new things to us. We get curious about other things and we step out of our comfort zone in a little way into a place of optimal discomfort. And optimal discomfort is where our life revs up again and our vitality, the cycle of vitality, becomes sustainable. Because when we push just a little bit out of our comfort zone, that's where we ignite with our passion. That's where we discover our interest. That's where we connect with our friends, our physical energy. And that carries us into the energy of our life. I talk about that in the book, but the easiest way into it is just to take a little step forward and do something you've always wanted to do, even if you don't know how to do it. So I'm sitting on the couch all those mornings and I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to take my simplest, easiest baby step toward my job. Because what I discovered, it wasn't the writing I have a problem with. It's that I wanted to do a different kind of writing. I talked for years about starting a podcast and never done it. Oh, I'd like to. I have all the yes, but excuses. You know what I'm talking about. We all do this from time to time. Yes, but I don't have the time. Yes, but I don't know how to do it. Yes, but I don't have the equipment. And I decided in those cold, dark mornings in Oregon, they're all cold and dark mornings. I decided to start a podcast. And I decided to go for good enough and forget about perfect. Because for me, engagement and vitality comes from participating, not in the outcomes. It's the process that matters more. It's the living that matters more, not the outcomes, not how others might perceive it, but how the experience is for me. And I created Simply Said. I took an online class, created an editorial calendar, figured out how to do the equipment, bought myself a fancy microphone. I'm talking to you on it right now. Let's see. Fancy microphone. And within a month, I had launched Polly Campbell Simply Said, a podcast that talks about how to live well, do good, be happy. and it made me happy. I felt energized because I was so challenged to learn, and I was meeting all kinds of different people, and I was learning all kinds of new things. And that novelty is the spark that helps us re-engage with our life, and the spark that ignites our vitality. And that's how I got unstuck. There's a whole book about it, because as I was going through these moments, I was thinking, so many of us are tired and worn and bored, and yet this life offers every possibility and every opportunity to engage and learn new things and try things. We have everything in front of us, and we're going to have ups and downs again, right? We all get stuck. Life comes in. It doesn't make it blissfully happy. I'm not talking about being happy every moment. I'm talking about re-engaging with life in a way that is meaningful and satisfying and interesting. And when we've done that, our vitality expands and grows, and it sustains us through the more difficult times. So I've learned these strategies, or you can call them practices. I've done the research, and I've written about them in the book because it has transformed my life and how I think about my life. And I think we are in a unique position, no matter what's going on externally, to go within and create the life we want to live instead of complaining about the life we have. And that's what this book is about. And that's what I want you to feel tonight, that it's all within us, and without us, we can expand into this moment and really create the lives we want to live. We can really get unstuck and feel enthusiastic and creative and energized and excited again about the life we have. So thank you for sharing the night with me tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Pick up You Recharge, or any book that inspires you from Books and Books. And it's been a pleasure being here. I appreciate it. I see there might be a few questions, so I'm happy to take a minute for that.
Well, that was great. We do have a few questions. And if anyone hasn't had a chance to ask their question yet, you can do so by clicking the Ask a Question feature underneath the screen. All right, so our first one. I imagine this year has brought on more energy drain and more burnout than usual. What advice do you have for those facing a pandemic-induced energy drain?
Absolutely. I think we've all felt it, right? And I have to tell you, I went through the early months of the pandemic feeling really good, and I hit a wall in February that was super stressful and surprising. And I tune back into the strategies I talk about in You Recharge, because here's the first thing. Whatever you're feeling, this isn't about being right or wrong. I think it's okay to feel those down days and those moments. We are human beings having a big experience. And I write about emotion regulation in the book, because if we suppress our emotions, that is a big time vitality drain. Right? It takes a lot to not think about our sadness or not deal with the challenges in our life. So the first thing I recommend is go all in, sit with it. But, and here's the challenge, right? Become aware of what you are feeling. Because some of the times I was feeling impatient or angry with my teen daughter. Yes, I have been quarantined with a 15-year-old girl. So you can see there's been some challenges around here for us. But I was showing up with some impatience and some anger towards her. And what was really happening, I discovered when I sat down and really got clear about what I was feeling, is that I was feeling scared, and I was feeling stressed, and I was feeling tired, and all those things that come with living in a big time life pandemic like we've just had. So don't beat yourself up, but know the energy you're feeling, know the emotion you're feeling. And there's a ton of research that I write about in the book that explains that when we can develop our emotional vocabulary and explain and understand exactly specifically what emotion we are feeling, then it diffuses the power of it. So we wind up feeling curious about it, and then we can use the emotion as a cue. So when I went into my funk in February and realized what was going on, then I could deal with the anger. Then I could deal with the fear. Then I could deal with these other things. I channeled it by journaling. I channeled it by getting more physical exercise, which I will tell you right now, I do not like exercise at all. I do not. But part of increasing my vitality and also coming through the pandemic was to make sure I get 20 minutes of movement every day. I get on an exercise bike, I walk outside, I vacuum as hard as I can for 20 minutes. I don't care what it is, but I'm moving my body for at least 20 minutes a day and often longer than that, because that's what I needed to rev that energy for myself. Journaling about what you're experiencing is a really important practice. And also recognizing, I talk about something called tomorrow optimism, because this moment can be just this moment. No matter if we're facing a pandemic or bill issues or marriage issues or issues with our teen daughter, whatever it is, it's going to change. It's just this moment. So look at tomorrow optimism. At the end of the day, notice what went well for you. Give thanks for that and appreciation. And then one thing I do before I go to sleep is, what am I looking forward to tomorrow? So it's future casting, but what about tomorrow am I looking forward to? In the beginning, I'll tell you what, there wasn't much that I wasn't having a whole lot of fun. But now it's part of my practice. Every day I make sure there's something I add in, whether it's a quiet coffee by myself in the morning or something new that I get to write or petting my cat, which is crawling on me now. And those things. Look for something that you can look forward to. And if you don't have anything, create it. Because when we find a reason to be optimistic about tomorrow, we start behaving optimistically, and it helps us through those darker moments.
I think that's so interesting that you said that, it didn't hit you until February, because I think so many of us, if it didn't come immediately, we didn't think that we were really gonna get hit with this wave of confusion and sadness, but it definitely can happen later on.
Absolutely. And I think I was I was writing a book last year, this book. My daughter was being homeschooled. We remote schooled and all of that. And so I think there was such a flurry of activity, right? We get caught up in this cycle and we think, oh, I'm so busy, I'm doing everything good. Busy is not good. What we want is a full and satisfying life, not just a busy life. We don't want to rotate like this. We want to go easy and be deliberate in what we're choosing to fill our time with. And by the time February hit, the crisis was over. And I'm in Oregon, so we've been in lockdown until a couple of weeks ago. But the immediate crisis felt over. I knew what I was up against and I was managing it. And I finally relaxed and I just kind of melted down. There's a certain security in knowing that you can feel bad and still be okay, right? You don't have to behave badly from difficult emotions. You can feel uncomfortable and still be okay. We can hold all that at one time. And that's really what I did.
Well, this next question kind of ties into that as well. Do you think the things you value can evolve over time? And how can you support that evolution, but also address your energy drain at the same time?
Yeah, my values have evolved over time, and my ideas and my thoughts. And I think the fact that you're asking the question and even open to the discussion tells me that yours are too, because so often we think, well, I came from a family of Republican or Democrat, or people who save money or people who don't, or people that do that. And so those are my values. I'm an exerciser or I'm not an exerciser. And I don't think that's how they work at all. Our values change and grow as we change and grow. The things that I wanted more than anything when I was 25 years old are not even on my list today, right? And had I been living next to those values, making more money and doing these things, I wouldn't be probably as comfortable and as satisfied as I am today. Again, I'm not blissfully happy every moment. Crap happens. Life is hard. But I feel engaged in the life I'm living, and there are a lot of happy moments. So what I think, what I suggest and what I've done is every year when I'm thinking about the year ahead, or for me, I do this in September when my daughter goes back to school. It's kind of my New Year cycle for me. I take a look at how the last year went and what's working for me. And if there's something that doesn't feel like it's right where I want to be, I go through that exercise I talked about a little earlier, where I look at the values I'm holding. Do I know what they are? And do they still seem resonant for where I'm at? For example, my value of health looks totally different than it did 20 years ago when I was, 25 years old. Now, 20 minutes of movement is a good thing for me. And that's my value. My value is to make consistently healthy decisions for my life. That doesn't mean I don't eat pizza, but it means I don't eat as much pizza. I eat smaller portions, because what I found is when I'm living in opposition to the things I want most, I don't feel good. And so it starts slow, like it's a habit, right? But yes, they evolve based on your interests, based on the people in your life, based on the way the world changes. I used to not be very in tune with politics or external situations like that. Now I'm more aware, because part of my value as a person is to be a conscientious citizen of this country. And to do that, whichever way you do that, I have to know what's going on so that I know I'm recycling, so that I know I'm making decisions that are better for the world than what I was doing before, because I felt bad about that before. So I think values evolve as we grow and evolve. What you need to do, or what I have done, is to stop and say, okay, where am I now? What do I value now? And what are some behaviors that I can take that match up against that value? How can I act on that value? Kindness is a value of mine. So even when I'm doing something I don't like, even when I'm walking on the street I hold my head up and I say hello to the people I meet, because I'm hoping that they feel that kindness from me, because that is my value. Not because they deserve it or don't deserve it, not because they're great people or not, I don't know, but that is my value. So that's how I act on that value.
Well, that's wonderful. And then the last question's actually from me. We always love to end on this question as a bookstore. What are you reading? What are some books that have sort of helped you on this journey, that helped you while you were writing your own book, that you'd recommend in addition to yours?
This is always a hard question for me, because I read everything. Right now I'm reading a lot of thrillers. I've been reading a lot of thrillers during the pandemic. I'm reading an interesting book now called Paradise, Nevada, which is kind of about Las Vegas and the Nevada scene. I'm not sure where it's going yet, but that's what I'm reading. I just read a book on the nonfiction side by Christy Whitman called The Desire Factor. And it's about the law of attraction and how we can align our energies, how we can use the energy that we already have to create more of an experience of alignment in our own lives. And it's super interesting. In fact, I just got to interview for her on the podcast for another book she wrote, and she'll be on Polly Campbell Simply Said in a couple of weeks. But I also have about 2 or 3 books going at one time and a bunch of articles. I like to read a nonfiction. I call it a study book, because one of the ways I keep my energy going is I read. It's part of my morning ritual to read a book that inspires me every morning, that gets me going. And that can be anything. That can be about something I don't know anything about. I wrote a book this year about growing a tea garden. I know nothing about tea gardens, but it was interesting. I read a lot of books on writing so I can hone my craft and get better at that. And I read a lot of books about personal development and growth, and how we can not change who we are, but use all that we are to create the experience we want. I don't think it's about changing the individual. I think it's more about developing our awareness so that we can deliberately create the experiences we want with all that we have. I think we're good enough the way we are. We could just use our energy in a more focused way.
Well, that's some great reading advice. And we actually got one more question
Okay.
that I do want to address, because it's always interesting. What is your next writing project?
We should figure it out tonight, everyone. I'm kind of, I don't want to go too much into it, but I'm kind of playing around with the idea of something called unscheduled, which it's early yet, but I really learned a lot from how my schedule during the pandemic got stripped away, and how I'm choosing now more deliberately to create the experience that I just talked about living a fuller life rather than a busy one. I want the moments that we have to be resonant and interesting and fun or curious. I think curiosity is a superpower, and I think it also helps us reframe the moments that are most difficult so that we grow and gain meaning from that. And that alone sustains our vitality. So I'm playing around with that idea. Like, how can we use time to create abundance in our life rather than our sole focus on money or material goods?
Well, I love that.
Would people read that book? Would you guys read that? I mean,
I would definitely read it. Sign us
Okay.
up for the virtual event, or the in-person event
I'm
when you
happy
do
to come
publish
back.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, we have Kate. Kate Porch said absolutely. So.
All right. I'm coming.
All righty. Well, thank you so much, Polly. That was so inspiring. Really great. And I'm sure everyone in the audience agrees as well. And thank you to everyone in the audience for tuning in. I know there's so much out there, so the fact that you spent your evening with us really means a lot. And if you haven't ordered your copy of You Recharged, please do so by clicking the green button right below. And we hope to see you at our upcoming virtual events.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all.
Bye, guys.